Looks like you're in your new house, Orlando.
Yes, I am in my new house, yes.
Good.
I moved to here because Silvia is so busy there is so much work to fix this house, to make it. But I can show you a little bit of it. It goes down there and goes to the kitchen there. So it is a kind of rustic home in the woods, in the really deep into the woods. And but
It looks very civilized.
it requires a lot of work to make it to seal this taste. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankara Sharya Madhyamam Asmada Sharya Paryanta Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvara Guratmeti Moti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanantam Satiguru Pranato Shmaham Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. So we begin today from the verse 85, Vivekachudamani, the selection of 108 verse. Even though he or she still lives in a body, we are talking about the characteristics of the liberated one, or the benefits of self-knowledge. We are in that the benefits of the knowledge of non-duality, so the benefit of self-recognition. So on this verse it says, even though he or she still lives in a body, the most salient characteristic of a liberated being is the absence of the sense of I and mine. We haven't covered this verse last time, right, Lynn? We did?
Yeah, I thought we did.
You think you did? Yeah?
Yeah, I think so, Linda.
Ruth believes not. We didn't? Okay.
Yes, we did.
We did. Okay. Anyhow, so as we know, self-recognition, it brings with itself some benefits. If it was not for the benefits for the jiva, the understanding that the jiva is just an appearance that happens within consciousness, and consciousness is the true nature, true fundamental nature of the very jiva, and that can be understood in the jiva's intellect. So it's only in the jiva this knowledge of the fundamental, true, real nature of the universe can be known. You understand? So even though he or she lives in a body, the most salient characteristic of liberated beings is the absence of the sense of I and mine. So, and that is very understandable, because this self-recognition needs to have the power to gradually cancel the sense of I, the thinker, the author, the doer, and the controller of the results of my actions. All this sense of doership, authorship, and as the one who is really doing everything. This universal ignorance that makes us not see what's the most obvious thing, that there is thousands of factors contribute for every one thing that we do. And then the jiva comes with this sense of doership and ownership and authorship and says, I do, I control, I think my thoughts and so on. So this sense of I and mind, this sense of doership, it needs to be canceled. It means to be minimized until it gets canceled, to a certain extent, so that we can say that self-recognition, self-knowledge has fructified. So it is this absence of the sense of doership, the ego. This absence is the fruits of self-recognition, and this is the most salient characteristic of these yanis, of these liberated beings. They have less and less and less this sense that, I am the doer of all of this. And this is something very, very common, and it's something very tangible. Each one of us can feel it growing gradually when you see, you're understanding that the doing is part of this overall system called Ishvara, in which we participate. But this sense of resolving my ignorance, into the understanding of Ishvara as the totality of all factors, Daivan, this grows. And this has a huge benefit to the jiva because he can relax, he can say, okay, que será, the system is complex. This karmic equation is extremely complex. We will never figure it out. We know that we have to somehow harmonize our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, with the field, with the Dharma, and then we leave it all to Ishvara. So this absence is the most common characteristic of the yani. In the verse 8.6, Shankara goes to say, he or she does not regret actions done in the past. He or she is free of guilt, is not worried about the future, and is dispassionate with reference to what happens in the present. Did we cover this one before? No? Okay. So he or she does not regret actions done in the past. So we all know how easy it is to beat ourselves up, feeling guilt and inadequate because we did something that was not really nice. It was not really appropriate. No, it was not really dharmic. So the yani is not a saint. The yani, it does not mean that he's only going to do, wonderful actions. He will never have any negative emotions or thoughts or words or feelings, It does not mean that. The yani is that the one that does not identify with anything which is a byproduct of the body-mind complex. Okay, so we regret our past actions only to the extent that we identify ourselves as the doer. I am the doer, and I did something really inappropriate. So the previous verse said that the yani, the most common thing is that the sense of I am the doer, I am the one who did these actions, and I take the pride and I take the shame. So this feeling, this sense of feeling proud or feeling shameful of any action, it dissolves gradually. Why? Because the identification as the doer is dissolving in the light of the teachings. You understand? So this sense of regretting actions, of feeling very proud and elevated when I do successful or endeavors or good actions, or feeling very shameful when I do something that in a moment I was a little bit tamasic, I was a little bit rajasic, I do something that was not nice. The most common and not the most common feature in the Yanni is that he does not feel the shame. You understand? And I believe I have already mentioned an example that happened to me when something happened when I still was having and running our restaurant in the United States. It was before I met Vedanta and Ramji, but I was self-recognition had taken place, and it did have an incredible impact on the way I was experiencing myself and my environment. And then I kept running the restaurant, trying to get rid of that kind of lifestyle. I want to just, to keep soaking in a more sattvic. I did not know any of sattva, rajas, and stuff. I had no clue. I was my entire life with Papaji and Ramana and Sagadatta before Osho. I did not have access to this teaching, but something happened that I was related to the world completely different. And then I had a discussion with my brother in the restaurant when we are just opening. And then in the front of the house, there were already several tables with our guests. In the kitchen, in the back, there was the kitchen. We had a huge kitchen. And we were in a station we used to call the waiter station in between. And I started having an argument with him. And then the temperature started going up and up and up. It got really hot, and then we started yelling. And then it became a really bad scene, The customers in front, the kitchen, with chefs and cooks and dishwasher in the back, and we are yelling at each other. And then it was very strange. My son, he ran away because we had a discussion. And he was not understanding that my word was the last. I was the one supposed to say, okay, you don't agree, but we're gonna do as a wish because I am the owner, I'm the boss here. And then what I had to say, I said, okay, but you know what? We're gonna do my way because I am the boss. When I did that, and then he exploded very badly, and it's understandable. I should never have said that. So it was something very bad. And then he rushed to the office and he locked himself there for a few moments. I stayed in the waiter station, and I stayed there and I look around and I was trying to understand what was going on. And I was surprised to see that I was not feeling ashamed. There was no sense I did it. All I could figure out is like, wow, there was something happening here. The temperature went up and there was a release of energy, of anger, and I'm here watching all of that. And I was not identified with the doer, and I did not feel shame. Very, very interesting. Something new in the beginning, when this self-knowledge is clear and it's really a doubtless self-knowledge, everything is a little bit new in the beginning, and then slowly we get used to it. So I was a little bit surprised. And then after a few minutes, my son, he cools down a little bit in the office, and he comes out of the office and he finds me still standing there in the waiter station. I was contemplating, like, what the heck is going on with me here that I don't feel ashamed? I should be feeling ashamed, And then when he comes back, he sees me there like that, and he says, "Are you not ashamed?" And then I looked at him and I say, "No, I'm not ashamed." I was afraid to tell him that I was not ashamed. And then he put his hand in his head and said, "Oh my God, now he's totally crazy. He's not even ashamed." And then the last thing he said is the nicest one. And then he looked to me and he said very loudly, everybody heard, "And you know what? You are not enlightened." Why he said that? Because, there are two people waiting here. Why he said that? Because at the time that we had already a little sangha there in Olympia, Washington, and every Sunday there was such song and so on. And then he was, "Oh, what's going on with my father now? He's fooling these people, pretending to be enlightened." And then he comes and he tells me in the rest, you are not enlightened, you know. But this is because this verse reminds me of being in a situation in which something happened that usually any jiva would feel ashamed, and the yani does not regret actions. He does not regret actions done right now, done in the past, because there is only actions right now, and then it overhangs in our mind as a memory, and then we say, "Oh, I did something bad in the past." So I was there, like, oh, no, I did something happened, I did not do that, and so what, you know? I don't know exactly. I did not know that I knew I was conscious, but I had no idea the meaning of all of that. I just knew that I was very weird. I was very strange, you know. I was relating the world in a totally different, new way. But anyhow, he or she does not regret actions done in the past. He or she is free of guilt. How about that? This is a nice benefit, huh? Very nice benefit. So I had this spiritual life. I blew my profession when I was young, and I ran after Osho Rajneesh. I became a disciple of Osho Rajneesh, and from there, my life was all the time as a spiritual hippie. And I had this little baby growing next to me, and I'm dragging him here and there. And of course, I mean, I was not a great father. One of the things he lacked the most was to have security, structure, family, house, you know. And I had already broken up from his mother long before. So I was not the best father in that sense. And I used to feel so guilty about being a bad father because I did not provide my son with proper education, proper family, proper security, you know, and all these things. I used to feel guilt about all of that. I used to think, oh my God, to be a father and to be a mother is to feel guilt, you know, forever, because everybody makes huge mistakes bringing up children, you know. So no, it's free of guilt. It does not regret the past, does not regret the actions done right now that becomes past actions, and it's free of guilt. Claudio, how about that? Huh? I mean, this is real. The benefits of self-knowledge. It's true. We have to sell it in a proper way, because otherwise, who wants to do all this big work? You know, when you come to Vedanta, you know that self-knowledge does not grow in the trees. You have to really to work hard to defeat this cosmic universal ignorance. You know, the sense of ego. Doership, I am the body, I am the mind, I am, and I want what I want. So it's a tough work. So we need to understand the benefits. And it does not regret the past actions, the present action, does not feel guilt, and it's not anticipating the future and being worried and concerned. Oh my God, how about tomorrow? And now things are changing. How it's going to change? It's going to go south, oh my God, it's bad. No, it's just like, it's the yani develops this natural attitude of not anticipating, of taking one day at the time, one day at the time. We do what we can. We do the best we can. We don't neglect what needs to be done, the roles, what I need to do, and so on. I mean, we decided to have a house in Brazil. We bought the house. Now there is a lot of things to do. I cannot cry. I have to do. But, one day at a time, without getting overwhelmed with, oh, geez, and that, oh, so much here and so much there, so many problems. Oh, this house has this problem. We just deal with one problem one day at the time. It's not worried about the future. And it's dispassionate with reference to what happens in the present. It begins saying that it does not regret actions done in the past. It's free of guilt. It's not worried about the future. It takes every day as it comes with the best of its ability to respond to the day-to-day problems or circumstances of life, and it is dispassionate. He or she is dispassionate with what is happening right now in the present. What it means to be dispassionate to what happens as our prarabdha karma. It means total acceptance. To be dispassionate is to accept that which cannot be changed. You understand? When we receive our prarabdha karma, we are receiving that which cannot be changed, which is our life situation, our life circumstance. No? So why to be all excited because things are not coming exactly according to my likes? It's coming the way it's coming, and I just accept it because, I cannot reject it. It's useless to reject it. So I cannot change what is unfolding as my prarabdha karma. What can I change? I can change my attitude, the attitude I have in respect to what's coming. This I can change. And then I can change what? I can change the response I will offer to the field, in respect to what the stimuli came from the field. So life presents itself, we are called to respond somehow. My response, I have a certain power to adjust, to change, to redirect, to reveal my actions, my thoughts, my motivation, the way I'm responding to life. So this I can change, but what's happening in the moment is something that the Yan is dispassionate about because he knows that it belongs to Ishvara. Ishvara is not delivering our prarabdha karmas according to our likes and dislikes. It delivers it according to our merits, according to our actions, our intentions, our efforts, etc. The self has no history. We cannot set about writing the history of the self in its infancy, then go on to details, its experience in childhood and youth, nor can we speculate about what might happen to the self in the coming years. So this self is consciousness, is our existence, it's our consciousness, it's awareness, it's changeless, it is beginningless, it's beyond time, it's beyond, beginning, middle, and end. It was never created, it's beyond eternity. So it's beginningless, it's changeless, and it's free of attributes, and it has no history. How about that? Oh, I have no history. No? I say, oh my God, I want to be enlightened, but I want to keep my history, Oh, I was born in Rio de Janeiro, and then I suffered so much in my infants and so on, and then now I am enlightened and I keep my history. No, to be enlightened is to understand that I am consciousness, and consciousness has no history. Okay? Because it's that which never changed and never experienced anything. It never even knows anything. Okay? The knowing experience entity is the agent, Mr., Mrs. Jiva. Okay? But the freedom that we find here, this passion, this lack of worry, of guilty, of regrets, and so on, is only possible to the degree that we somehow identify fully, somehow, with consciousness, not with the mind, not with the body, but with consciousness. I am this limitless, unconcerned, like Ramji likes to say, ordinary, simple consciousness, and I have no history. So the ego has all this history, but consciousness has no history, has no personality. It's not an experiencing knowing entity. When we stop identifying the self with the body-mind, we also stop claiming as our own the collect actions of that body. Yeah, we stopped saying like, okay, and this is my actions. No. So you have identified with that which is akarta. It's actionless, does not do anything. What happens to the action of the body-mind? It belongs to the body-mind, and that's when things becomes a little bit interesting. What happens to the actions of the body-mind? It belongs to the body-mind, and it's going to come back to the body-mind. But the one who knows Aham Brahmasmi, I am awareness, consciousness, and is still living the body, he's going to have the benefit, of experience dispassion in respect to the results of one's actions, even those actions that were not really nice. You understand? Because this self-recognition, I am consciousness, it somehow it impacts the jiva as well. The jiva with self-knowledge, it still gets the benefit of knowing that I am free of history, I am free of action, but I, in my inferior nature, as my secondary nature, as body-mind complex, I'm still doing, I'm still responding, I'm still knowing, I'm still experiencing. You understand? But then what happened? This agent, this jiva, it gets the benefit of knowing its fundamental free nature, and then his secondary nature as the jiva, it develops those characteristics, dispassion, good discrimination, lack of worries, lack of anticipations, freedom from guilt and shame, all of this comes to benefit the jiva to the extent that the jiva knows that he's not a jiva, but he's consciousness. You see how strange it is, this phenomenon of self-knowledge? The jiva has to understand that he's not really the experiencing, knowing, doing entity. He knows that his fundamental nature is free of actions and its results. But still, he's still, for as long as the previous verse was saying, as long as he's in the body, he's associated with the body. You understand? He's still living. And then the benefits are therefore this jivan mukta, a jiva with this self-knowledge. He's going to experience the world in a different way because of this knowledge in respect to my primary free fundamental nature. Somehow it overflows, or it comes and transforms or changes in a positive way the way that I experience this world. It has no personality, consciousness. When we stop identifying consciousness, the self with the body, we stop claiming that, oh, this was my actions and these are the results that therefore, this is my karma. What happens to the karma of the yoni? It's passed over to Ishwara. You say, Ishwara, okay, all karma, I know Ishwara is not a doer, but Ishwara, as the totality of the macrocosmic body of vasanas, is going to just deal with it, and the karma is going to go back to the body of the yoni, but the yoni is not going to buy into that. He may say like the karma is coming to this body maybe, but it does not come to me. Why? Because I'm no longer identified with the body as the body. It goes to the body, but I'm out of here. You understand? I'm out of here. So it comes to the body. So it does not claim to be my actions and the results of my actions, my karma, and so on. Ramana Maharaj thought that action is insentient. This can only mean that life consciousness does not inhere in action, which functions impersonally, as do the all laws of nature. We do not feel guilt about the acts of nature, such as a hurricane or earthquake. This is a very interesting analysis as well, So nature does not really feel guilt, of course. Only jivas feel guilt. Only jivas feels like, oh, it's not fair. But we never really think that nature is unfair if there is some of these cataclysms or something like that, hurricane and earthquakes and so on. So we do not feel guilt about any act of nature. We don't feel like, oh, nature, you are cruel and this and that. Nor should we feel guilt about some action a body performs. So what makes the guilt, how and when guilt comes into place? You see all these other creatures, all these other jivas, as we know, life lives of life. Life consumes life. Energy consumes energy. So every human, every jiva form is eating up another jiva. It's a chain, the food chain. Huh? Everything is feeding from something else, huh? And nobody feels guilt. So the only living creature that feels guilt is the jiva, human jiva. Why? Because he develops a sense that he's doing what he's doing. If he develops a sense that I'm doing what I'm doing, I am, and I know that I am, and I know that I do what I do, immediately what happens to that? He feels responsible for the results of his doings because he had identified with the body as the doer, as the one who is really moving the body and making the body think and act in a certain way. Whereas the whole system is moving all of us and actions are taking place, regardless, a lot of the time, regardless of our efforts of acting in a different way, such is the power of vasanas, as we know. Huh? So it does not mean that the jiva is helpless in respect to these powerful vasanas, but it means that the jiva must understand that everything is part of a system, which is constituted by infinite numbers of factors beyond the decision of the jiva of going right or left, of eating something or eating another, or doing something this way or doing that, say something or say something else. So there are many other factors contributing for this equation. So the jiva, when he's under the spell of Maya, he owns this entire system. He just reduces to my free will to decide right or left. I do this, I say this, I don't say that. And he takes responsibility for something that belongs to Shwat. And then he is again and again suffering this sense of guilty. We do not feel guilt about the nature doing what it does. We don't find that nature is cruel or nature is fair. Why we should be guilty about some actions that the body-mind is doing? You understand? If you understand that the body-mind is nothing but integral part of nature, a very, very unique one, because it's an object in nature, equipped with this intellectual ability to discern the term, the so-called free will, So the moment that we begin exercise this free will, we have this problem, We have this problem. The problem is what? Oh my God, I have to decide. Oh my God, now what I'm going to do? To have a choice is a stressor by itself, Whereas all other creatures, they just respond naturally according to their instinct, according to their causal body, their problems. So the jiva feels guilt about its own action because he's under the spell of Maya, avidya, ignorance. He thinks he's the doer. Understand? And it's not to say that he is not designed to do things, but he needs to understand in which way he's the doer, in which way he's not the doer. You understand? The whole conflict difficulty here about this sense of doership and free will, not free will, which is an eternal philosophical discussion, is that he is the doer and he's not the doer. And we need to understand in which way the jiva is a doer, in which way he is not the doer. You understand? He is the doer only and only when he exercises its intellectual ability to respond to a stimulus coming from the field. When we are called to offer our action, our words, our deeds, you understand? There we have a very, very relative power to choose, okay? But that does not give us the power to control the results of what's going to happen, you know? It does not give us the power to say, I am the doer and I am the controller, I am the responsible, I am the co-creator, I am the one driving, you know, and I know I can do and I can attract, I can live the life that I dream, the power of thinking and manifesting. So all these delusions come because the individual is just, you know, tripping. He does not know that, you know, he's a doer only in respect to choosing on a moment to moment how to respond. You know? But that is one among infinite numbers of other factors that are going to bring about the results, right? So we are the doer from this angle, but we are not the doer because we are being done, as Ramji sometimes likes to say. We are being done, meaning to say the entire system is pressing us to do in accordance to our karma, to our vasana. So am I doing or am I being done? Both. Because reality, this mithya, everything that happens mithya is not linear, it's cyclical. You see, my vasanas are pressing me to do some things, and then my free will just offsetting this vasana and say, no, I'm going to adjust my actions and I'm not going to respond just blindly, compulsively, you know, from what my vasana is dictating me. Then my free will is going to say, no, just a moment, you know, I want to try something different here. I have got in contact with Dharma, with karma, with Gita, and I know all this knowledge, and I understood, and now I want to adjust my response to the field in a way that, you know, I can reshape my vasana load, you see? So we are being done, but we are also responsible to reshape our vasana load. And we begin reshaping it intelligently when we come to the scriptures, the Vedic scripture, and then we can really begin, you know, reprogramming our lives, our causal body, you know, from this the platform of this Vedic knowledge, you know. So we went off a little bit here. The question of morality arises here. I'm not responsible for the things I do. The question presumes I am the body, or at least the intentional thought that sets the body in motion. Now, when we desire something, we conceive an action that can obtain the object of that desire, and if possible, we may perform that action. Every action produces a result, but the entire process is insentient. This is very interesting. We often say that I like when Paramarthananda and other Swamis in our tradition say that Ishvara is a conscious being. And why it is a conscious being? Because fundamentally it's pure knowledge and intelligence, sattva. You understand? Is that which is as close as it can be to consciousness itself. You understand? Sattva, the first energy that Maya brings about. So we have Ishvara as this omnipresent, omniscient power of pure knowledge and intelligence. And this Ishvara, although he says the whole system, although Ishvara is pure Sati, but the whole system, the manifestation of all these laws is insentient, as it says here. It's a manifestation of Maya, okay? It's not self-conscious, okay? It's not sentient, it's insentient. It means to say it is a program, it is a system, it is a computer system, it's a living organic computer system, as sometimes Paramarthananda likes to put, it's a living organic, system made out of knowledge, and this knowledge is what's going to regulate all the laws operating in the universe, and which keeps it and sustains and recycles everything. It's just insentient. It's a program, okay? That's what it means here. Where am I here? Okay, now when we desire something, every action produces a result, but the entire process is insentient. That is, it's not intrinsically moral or immoral. Understand? It is what it is. It's causality, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Understand? It's all designed in a certain way, and it is what it is. These karmic laws operate in such a way that appears that sometimes we may say like, oh, but it's so cruel, it's so sad that there are so many people suffering right now of this and that, you understand? But fundamentally, it is a system. It's nothing about right or wrong or moral. It is what it is. It's just causality, cause and effect, cause and effect. And the jivas, they are the ones subject to this karmic laws because they own the actions, and then they have to deal with, take responsibility for the results of these actions. Human actions like gravity operate impersonally. And when we use figurative language about divine justice or karmic retribution, we are merely expressing our emotions about the results of actions, which are distributed according to nature's inequitable laws. How we as imagined personalities feel about these results is another matter. So this is very, very rich here. Human actions, and then he's equating human actions like gravity. It's just another law. It's just another cause, It's just another action. So, human action, it's happens impersonally. And this is a very interesting point, because impersonally means to say that everything here, every action is part of this system called Ishvara. Fundamentally, everything is impersonal, but the jiva takes things personally. And then he believes that I am doing these actions and, I am responsible. It takes things personally. We have heard this expression, oh, come on, don't take it personally. Huh? Well, we take it personally because we believe that we are a person, a persona. We believe we are the body, we are the mind. Huh? But in fact, these jivas, they just are part of this impersonal system of actions and the results, and everything is impacting everything else. Human actions like gravity operate impersonally, and when we use figurative language about divine justice or karmic retribution, we are merely expressing our emotions about the results of action, which are distributed according to nature's inequitable laws. So this is challenging. It's really point to the fact that even these laws, this system, this meritorious system, even that is a concession to ignorance. Even that, is not the ultimate truth. You understand? But we cannot just reject that completely because we depend on the understanding of these karmic laws, you understand, in the Dharma, so that we can live a life and develop, in that manner, develop those qualifications, those mental, emotional, and intellect qualifications that allows us to understand that the only reality is consciousness, that all of these products, byproducts of Maya, they are just the not self, they are insentience, you know? So human actions like gravity operating personally, and when we use figurative language about divine justice or karmic retribution, we are merely expressing our emotions, our human emotions, our personal emotions about actions and its results, which are distributed according to the nature's inequitable laws. So we know that karma is a very complex science, and we have to look at karma from different angles, and we have to look as well from the planetary, let's say, or cosmic angle as well, you know. So we look from the perspective of a nation and a planet. So we may be experiencing universal or planetary karma, prarabdha karma, that may feel like, oh my God, it's so unfair, you know, because, you know, now we discover that there is another body or another asteroid or anything that's going to collide against the Earth, and then everything is going to be over here, you know. And right now, because, you know, right now that I'm enlightened and I want to enjoy the fruits of my self-knowledge, you know, as an example, you know, when we talk about this justice and karmic retributions, we are merely expressing emotions about the results of actions. But in fact, they are distributed according to nature's laws. How we, as imagined personalities, feel about these results is another matter. But I mean, really, let's imagine that it comes the official news that something is going to hit the Earth and our planet is going to go through an extinction, total extinction. So how we're going to feel about this, you know, nature's laws is something only related to Jiva's sense of personality, you know. How we feel about that is another matter. We imagine personality, you know. Oh, no, it's not fair. We're going to have an extinction of the planet. There is something coming that cannot be avoided, you know. So that's very interesting point there. Because these karmic laws, these karmic results are distributed according to nature's laws. And we don't want to understand these laws because our intellect cannot really understand the karmic equation of the cosmos, of the universe, of the planet, you know. But if you understand Ishvara, you can take these results impersonally, not personally. You say, okay, it's just the system. You know, the system is flashing things out, the system is leveling things out. There is nothing personal here because the jiva is not a person. You understand the point? There are some who misunderstand that it means that is meant by saying that action is sentient, insentient, that karma impersonal. There are some who misunderstand what is meant by saying that action is insentient and karma impersonal. It may be taken as a license to behave without the restraint of conventional morality or karma, not bringing into account these karmic laws. No, the notion I am not the body has been the rationale behind the scandals that have grown around some gurus and blah, blah, blah. Okay. No, it does not, how you say, exempts us of the responsibility in respect to following Dharma, following, you know, aligning to this moral karmic laws. You understand? So it does not do that, because we have to understand these two orders of realities of the same non-dual reality. We are not a person, but to a certain extent, in this apparent order of reality called media, the person is there, and the person was designed to respond, to act, but this person needs to understand in which way he is really the doer, in which way he needs to follow Dharma, in which way he has to comply with this natural laws, and in which way he knows that, it all belongs to Ishvara after all. You understand? It does not mean that all of this is a system and then I don't need to comply with the laws of the system. No, we need to comply with the laws. We need to bring them in account, live our life as a jiva, which is our inferior, secondary nature, but understanding that I am free of all of this, because all of this is mithya, is part of this insentient system called Ishvara, in which the jiva is integral part, and the jiva needs to understand mithya, needs to live in accordance with the laws of mithya, but knowing that all of this is not personal, is not really, sentient, it is a system, it is a program, but within mithya, I need to understand the true nature of mithya and satya. You understand? It's a little bit, subtle, all of these commentaries here. But if we truly realize that we are not the body, we will not pursue happiness by trying to satisfy bodily desires. And asserting that we are not the body does not grant the body-mind immunity from the results of our behavior. But now this is a little bit more clear for us to understand. If we truly realize that we are not the body, we will not really live a life which is, a translation of self-ignorance, because now I have self-knowledge. So if I live a life in which I am slave to my, my desires for pleasures and securities, pursuing happiness by objects, by trying to satisfy my sense, sense perceptions and satisfy the bodily desires and sensory desires. If I live that, it's an indication that I did not really understand that I'm already satisfied. Therefore, I don't need to live for all these pleasures compulsively. But if we truly realize that we are not the body, we will not pursue objects of desires, compulsively, like most samsaris do. If we do, it means to say that the understanding, I am free, limitless consciousness, was not properly assimilated. You understand? It may have been an insight, just a moment of clarity, but it's not really properly assimilate and integrate and internalize. So meaning to say that if I know that I'm not the body, I need to begin, naturally, for that knowledge to be fructified, manifest as moksha, as a sense of freedom. It needs to cancel this desire, this vasana that are constantly craving for satisfaction through sensory objects. And asserting that we are not the body, I say, okay, and then I'm not the body. I'm going to break this identification with the body. I say, I am not the body, period. Asserting it merely intellectually or mentally does not grant the body mind immunity from the results of our behavior. So the results are going to be coming, and we may repeat it again and again. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm the body. But if I keep behaving, in contradiction with that assertion, I'm asserting to myself, I'm not the body, but I'm acting in a way, wanting satisfaction for the body-mind. So there is a contradiction there. So if I assert that I'm not the body, it does not grant my body-mind immunity from the results. So the results are going to come. We may do as we please, but we must then accept the consequence. And there will be consequence. The absence of guilt about past actions and worry about the future, that's characteristic of the yoni, does not give rise to licentious behavior. It does not give rise to licentious behavior. Quite the reverse. The reverse there is very nice. Because the understanding, the consequence, the characteristic of the liberated one is not going to make him think like, okay, so now I'm free and now I just go for it. I'm just going to enjoy life and I'm going to go for all kinds of pleasures. And even if, it's not very elegant, even if there is some play, some manipulation, some things that are not really beautiful and straight and clear and dharmic, it's not an example, So if we do that, there will be consequence. That's what it's saying. We may do as we please, but we must then accept the consequence. And there will be consequence if we abuse, of our free will to satisfy our desires under the name of enlightenment. The absence of guilt about past actions of the yoni, which is a characteristic of the yoni, does not usually produce or give rise to licentious behavior in the part of the yoni. Quite the reverse. He's going to be much more composed, much more disciplined. He's going to regulate naturally, effortlessly, those vasanas that may still crave for some satisfaction and pleasure, sensorial pleasures, and so on. When we realize who and what we are, and that happiness is not in the object, including the body, we naturally lose interest in the object, including the body. We are no longer concerned about what the body did or what it may experience in the future, nor are we anxious about what is happening to the body right now. If the body is an object and we are not that object, why should we worry about that object? The body is Ishvara's concern, not ours. And Ishvara will do with it whatever the law of karma determines, regardless of how we may feel about, my parabdha karma. The parabdha karma is going to come when it comes, the way it comes, and we know that belongs to Ishvara. Why to worry about that? You see, this one may misunderstand and says and believes that maybe the yoni neglects the body because he's not concerned with the body, because the body is an object. Why I'm going to be concerned about it? It does not mean neglecting the body. It means not to be over concerned to the body and its action, its results is a sign of identification with the body as the body. So for the yoni, that identification has, broken or loosened up to a large extent. And then what happened? He sees the body as just another object, and he just keep an eye. He washes it, he feeds it, but he does not care for what's going to happen to the body, because furthermore, we know what happens to all bodies. All bodies are born, grow, and then go. We're born, we grow, we get older, and then we go. Regardless of how we feel about it, the karma is going to follow its laws. In this knowledge is peace. And peace is happiness. This is very nice in the end. In the end, Shankara equates happiness with peace. Because in the world, usually happiness is linked with a happening or an event or an accomplishment or gaining of something, achievement. Oh, happiness. Oh. And here it says, in this knowledge and only in this knowledge, there is peace. And Ananta, the true Ananta, happiness, is peace. No? So, and then a lot of people may feel disappointed and feel like, oh my God, but it's boring. Peace. I want something a little bit more exciting. No, with maturity, we gradually we develop a value, a huge value for this peace. You understand? Just leave me alone. Leave me alone. I just want to enjoy my peace, my inner peace, my peace of mind. A mind resolved by the means of jnana. And peace is happiness. Happiness is not an accomplishment, gaining something or achieving or an event. It's just shanti, 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 peace. Happiness can be very bad for the body, huh? You know that story about the guy who won the lottery ticket, and then people were afraid to tell him, and then they got the family doctor to tell the old man, because they say the old man is gonna pop and die. And then the family doctor went there, so don't worry, I'm gonna go about and I'm going to explain him in a way that he's not gonna die of a heart attack. And then the doctor starts saying, so, I know that you like to play in the lottery and this and that, me too, my father. And it's very hard to win, but but I think if I would win, I would help so many people and do this and do that. How about you, old man? What would you do if you would get those 5 millions, And he says, well, you know what? If I would win that $5 million, I would really take care of you because you took care of me my entire life. I would give 50% of that money for you, my good doctor. And then the doctor had a heart attack and died. So happiness can be a killer in all levels. You understand? But we are talking about shanti, peace. No depression and no excitement. Peace is happiness. Verse 8-7. He or she views apparently distinct objects endowed with acceptable and unacceptable qualities equally. So the jnani is going to view the objects as they present themselves. Sometimes they appear acceptable, favorable. Sometimes they appear to be a challenging object, a problem. Acceptable and unacceptable, they will see that equally. So in other words, adversities, unfavorable circumstance, and then favorable circumstance, good punya karmas. So the jnani is not going to be, jumping of happiness with punya and being depressed with papa karma. He's going to see that which is favorable and that which is unfavorably equally. Okay? So he or she views these objects which apparently they possess, they possess some favorable or unfavorable value. But we know that this is subjective. The objects are value neutral. But it appears that the object, oh, this is favorable, this is a good one, this is a bad one. Huh? Oh, this is a very bad thing, this is a good thing. We know that the bad and the good is just a superimposition that we superimpose by the means of our vasanas, our likes and dislikes. Then we say, oh yeah, this is in accordance with my life. This is acceptable. Oh, this is against my life. This is unacceptable. So the yoni, he or she sees it, he knows that these qualities are not inherent to object, they are superimposition, they are just an appearance. Okay, they were projected by the vasanas, and he understood the whole game, the whole system, and he knows this punya papa, these values of the objects, they are just projections of our vasanas, therefore he sees us all equally. You understand? Understanding is everything. If we really see through and understand these teachings, and then only then we can develop this quality called equanimity in regards to the objects, because we know that they have no value in themselves intrinsically. The values, the apparent values are given by our likes and dislikes, which is a totally different, which is another talk, another discussion, but we need to link it all so that we develop the overview, this big picture, and then the sense of equanimity develops. What makes an object acceptable or unacceptable to us? No, of course, our likes and dislikes. We like that which promises pleasure, and we don't like that which forebodes pain. So we are constantly appraising the object that appear to us and either moving toward or away from them. Our experience, when ruled by our likes and dislikes, is one of a constant agitation. So if we move around in life guided by our likes and dislikes, we are in a constant state of mental disturbance. Why? Because Ishvara does not care for what we like. He does not care for what we do not like, He just presents it impersonally, taking account the totality of the Parabhada karma, the needs of the total, and so on. So Ishvara is going to present, and he does not take into account my personal like, my personal dislike. If I live in accordance to my likes and dislikes, I am set up to suffer. I'm going to live in constant mental agitation, distress, okay? And my peace is going to be destroyed. Constant agitation. Peace can only be superficial and fleeting. So, and then this peace, when it happens when somehow here and there, life is presenting us with something that we accept. Oh yes, this is fully acceptable. And then that moment I feel like, my mind is resolved, because now I really got something that is fully acceptable. But then immediately life presents us with another set of circumstances that are not fully acceptable. And then again, my mind is disturbed. Why? Because I want the way I want. I want things that, So it's a setup. So peace, if any, will be defected, superficial, and fleeting. This is the life of all samsaris. Unfortunately, it takes many rounds, it seems, before one begins suspecting that it does not work to live a life governed by one's likes and dislikes. When we are liberated, a jivan mukta, we know that happiness is not in the object. We know that happiness is peace. Is peace, and peace is the nature of the self, is our true nature. Okay, this is a little bit of a stretch. It's a concession to ignorance again. Okay, here and there, when the scripture says that your nature is peace and security, we need to understand what it's saying. Our nature is consciousness, is that which is limitless. To the extent that we understand our nature as that which has no limitation because it's one without a second. And then I know that everything is a superimposition on myself. There's nothing but myself. And that sense of limitlessness produces peace. It's not that consciousness experiences peace. The Jiva experiences peace to the degree that he understands that his nature is limitlessness, consciousness, awareness. You understand? So when we say that our nature is peace, is shanti, it means the nature of the mind of the Jiva Mukta experience peace, shanti. It's resolved by the means of jnana, understanding of one's true nature. Yeah? When we are liberated as a Jiva Mukta, we know that happiness is our very nature. The criteria by which we judge objects as favorable, acceptable, or unacceptable are thus removed. It fades. It fades gradually. It all fades. All these mechanics of all the time, it goes fading. In fact, objects are realized to be not separate from I, awareness, consciousness, the self, and the self is not divided in any way. Phenomena will still appear as manifestations of Maya, Ishvara, the gunas. Huh? So all these diversities of objects, and they are just superimposition of consciousness, myself. They continue appearing the same way a mirage appears in spite of us understanding the phenomena called mirage. So it's going to continue appearing. But where am I? The self-phenomena will still appear as manifestations of gunas, expressions of the three gunas in various combinations, but the jnani no longer react to these appearances the way that samsaris do, for we then neither desire or fear those products of Maya. You understand? So Maya is going to keep producing this object, but that magnet force of attraction and repulsion towards what Maya presents us with, that energy, that, oh, yes, repulsion, attraction, I want, I don't want, that fades when we understand our nature, the nature of satyas, when we understand the nature of mithya, we know that objects, they are just a trick of this trickest called Mr. Maya. So that fades. But we no longer react to these objects that appear within ourselves, because what? We are no longer desiring them or fearing them, because we know they are just mere appearance, mere superimpositions. They are tricks played by Mr. Maya. So we don't have David today. So if I keep when I have David here, I keep looking at his face expression, and then when I see that he's having a little bit of a hard time, and then I ask him to just spit it out, and then we can have some Q&A. So we don't have him today. The verse 8:8. He or she is not subject to elation when situations are in harmony with his or her likes or dislikes, or to depression when they are not. Same thing. So the jnani is not subject to elation. What is the exact meaning of this word elation? Lynn or Ruth?
It's like a joyfulness, ebullience, just happy, but a little bit more than happy. Yeah.
A little bit more than happiness. Okay.
Happy.
He or she is not subject to elation when situations are favorable, in harmony with one's likes and dislikes, or to depression when they are not. The same logic, the same principle. Yeah? There is a clear understanding of objects just being what they are. I no longer project values on the object, meaning to say this is good, this is not good. And then when a situation happens, which is nothing but an object, and circumstances and situations are objects. Sometimes they are complex objects, but it is an experience. It's a circumstance, a situation. They appear to us, and why we know it's an object? Because it can be objectified, it can be known, it can be witnessed, and say, wow, this is happening, this is an object. When these situations are in harmony with one's likes, usually people feel like, oh, success, so I am a successful person. I got what a beautiful situation. Now look at my house, look at my family, look at my job, my company, and so on. So it's in harmony. And then we feel this elation, this happiness. But when things go down and then depression, so the yani, he or she does not experience that. And why? Because those likes and dislikes, those, for things to be in a certain way, they were just, neutralized and removed, dissolved, by the understanding that things are perfect just the way they are. Things do not need to be different for me to experience my shanti. That's the point. My shanti is my very nature. Happiness is my nature. What Shishwara is going to present me as my circumstance, it belongs to Ishwara's system, which is a meritorious system as far as the jiva is concerned. And it applies itself to the body mind of the jivan mukta as well. If there is punya, great, there is punya. But it's never going to feel like, oh, very happy because circumstances are good, or depressed if circumstances aren't good. That's the point. So there is the understanding that one's nature is fullness, therefore one's nature is shanti. Shanti is a byproduct of the understanding of my fullness as consciousness, that which pervades everything, the substratum of everything. That is the only understanding that really provides us with this sense of peace, to know that everything is just this consciousness, and I am that consciousness, I am this consciousness. When we know that we are the self, we are no longer subject to the highs and lows that characterize the emotional life of those who identify with the body-mind. Ups and downs. We expect, oh, I'm up there, and then boom, crash, and then depression. Oh, I was so rich, now I lost everything. Now I have to work again to become rich again. And then when I'm up there, I feel great about myself, and then when I crash, I feel very bad about myself. I feel miserable. So the yani does not go through these ups and downs that characterize the life of most samsaris. So long as we believe we are an individual, we are dependent upon circumstances that we cannot control, for whatever happiness we may experience. So this is nice. As long as I believe I am a person, an individual, a body mind, I'm going to be depending on what? I'm a person. I don't believe and I don't accept the fact that I am limitless consciousness. I'm a person. I am this body. I am this mind. As long as I believe that I'm body mind, what is my position? I am totally vulnerable to the circumstance that life presents me to moment. Okay? Because as a person, I'm moved by my desire to have things my way. And then I'm vulnerable to the prarabdha karma, the circumstance of life, and Ishvara does not care for our likes and dislikes, as I said before. So as long as I am in that position, firmly identified with my body, mind, and its vasanas, its likes and dislikes, I am living in a very vulnerable position, dependent upon the circumstance that I cannot control. And the delusion of the person, the individual Jiva, is to believe that somehow he is not working hard enough to control his or her circumstance. Huh? It's there running on the underlying logic is now I have to work harder so that I can control the field, so that I can control my experience, the circumstance, these objects. I want things my way. So people have to go through a life working, trying again and again to control that which is uncontrollable. How you would say that? Incontrollably. Uncontrollable. How do you say that? Huh?
Uncontrollable.
Uncontrollable. Nice.
Uncontrollable.
We have no power to control the field, control our prarabdha karma. We are at the mercy of those circumstances when they present us with a situation that we find unacceptable. As mentioned in the previous commentary, and throughout this work of Vivekachudamani, liberation is knowing that happiness is not inherently in any object. Liberation is knowing that happiness is peace, and peace is our nature, because peace is a byproduct of the understanding of my limitless nature as consciousness. My limitless nature of consciousness produce as a byproduct this sense of peace and satisfaction, contentment. The corollary follows that unhappiness is also not in the object. This is very nice. This is very nice because it reminds me that long ago, before I have read this text, this book, and read this passage of this commentary, one day out of the blue, it came to my mind that the joy is not in the object, and suffering and pain is not in the object either. When that insight came into my mind, I wrote Ramji at the time, and then I comment with other people in my satsangs as well. You know what? The joy is not in the happiness, and don't blame the object for your suffering, because pain is not in the object. The same way joy is not in the object. Pain and suffering is not in the object. Objects are value neutral. It's just that, oh, I don't like it, it's not acceptable, and then I will experience unhappiness. But it's not inherent to any object. So the corollary follows that unhappiness is also not inherent to any object. Freedom lies in this escape from the tyranny of depending upon circumstance to experience peace, which is our nature. Depending upon circumstance for experience peace is a very sad situation, condition. Freedom lies in this escape from the tyranny of circumstance, which amounts to our being enslaved to our likes and dislikes. Very clear, very simple, and very truthful. And sometimes the truth hurts a little bit, but we have the the power, as Vedantins, we can take any truths coming from the Upanishads. We have strong mind and strong intellect, and we can absorb all these truths and say, yes, we know all of that. And I have set up my mind, and I'm fully determined that I'm not going to be living a life being pushed around by these vasanas, which is going to just perpetuate this state of mental disturbance and agony and and suffering. So we want freedom from this universal cosmic ignorance that pushes people around from birth to the very, very end. I want to control and to create the circumstance fully according to my lives. What I find to be acceptable. Okay, so it's time to say goodbye. We finished the verse 8.8. Does anybody would like to say something, ask something? So, Karen, I'm happy to see you coming back more often, again and again. It means that, you are determined to really face it, that this is the greatest war. The war is an inner war between wisdom and ignorance. We have been living lives and lives and lives, driven, governed, operated by ignorance. And very rare souls have the courage to really fight it back, push it back and say, no, I'm not going to live according to these notions. I'm going to live in accordance to the scriptures revealed by the Lord Ishvara, by consciousness itself. Very nice. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, everyone. We meet again with our Q&A. And
Thank you.
and any question come up, please write it down there, send it to me, or present it to us on this coming Thursday. Okay? Namaste again. Hugs and kisses.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thanks, Alinda.
Thank you.
Thank
God bless everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Bye-bye.
Bye now.